Hello, my name is David Bach. I'm Deputy Dean for Academic Programs at Yale School of Management. And I'm here with Ted Snyder, Indra K. Nui Dean of the Yale School of Management. And Ted, you are...
For 7 more weeks or so.
You're about to wrap up, your tenure as Dean of the school. And so if you look back at the last 8 years, what's the first thought that comes to mind?
Oh, that one's easy.
Yeah.
Teamwork.
Okay.
Team. It's been great. We've had a big team, very committed team. People are different. People contribute differently, but then we also get together and stay focused. It's not just the people in the dean's office. It extends to the senior staff and the rest of the staff and the faculty and students and alumni. The team brings you honesty, provided that you set the same kind of expectations that you think are right for everybody. So when we were thinking about the strategy, I think having people assess things honestly was really important. You can't get to here without knowing your starting point. So I think, and we had people who really bought into that. And then we're getting, a little bit ahead in terms of the strategy, but once you know what you want to do, trusting people to see things, opportunities and challenges and go. Yeah. That was, I think, a clear outcome or derivative of having such a strong team. And then the feedback. Every once in a while having, you or Molly or somebody sort of, grab me by the lapels and say, I don't think that's quite right, or vice versa. Right. I think willingness to check each other. And all of this, of course, is infused by a set of aspirations. Yeah.
And we want to talk about these aspirations because you came in with them and with a clear idea of what you wanted to achieve. But what has surprised you perhaps during this time? And how, to what extent has this experience been over the past 8 years what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, I think pretty clear answer to that one too. I wasn't that surprised about the resources at Yale or the quality of the people. We knew what was going to happen with the facilities moving from Hill House Avenue into Evans Hall. I think the strategic steps, none of that was all that surprising. What did surprise me was how tight a community Yale SOM is. Mm-hmm. And I recall, I think in my very first month, I was talking to some faculty and they were referring to the students by first names. I thought, wow, that's different. Right. And in a very caring way. Right. And also the whole community, they were really invested in this. And once we had traction and discussion, you could see their commitment to the school. Doesn't mean agreement necessarily, but just the intensity of that commitment across all members of the community plus friends.
And what anchors that commitment in many ways is the mission of the school to educate leaders for business and society. You then formulated a set of strategic aspirations around that. They've become guiding objectives for the school. Talk a little bit about the process and also why it's important to have a few specific guiding aspirations and objectives.
Because I'm really simple. Yeah. But I do think it's very valuable to have clear objectives where it's not just you know them, it's also the boards. It's also, to the extent the faculty want to pay attention and try to get a sense of it, they're out there. And having simple ones, like how do we motivate progress on the mission to say, well, we're going to take advantage of being at Yale. Yeah. We're going to be among business schools, the most integrated business school in our home university. And then note eminent and purposeful Yale as the place where we're at. And then secondly, among U.S. schools, to be distinctively global. Those things are, those objectives, organizing objectives, people can understand and they can say, well, what does that mean for me and my role? So even beyond delegation, it just lets people go, take action. And then to loop it back to the mission, where we want to be better recognized as a place where we get these leaders who are purposeful, who are elevated, who come out of the DNA of Yale and the school, who want to do something purposeful, for business and society. So I think it was a good way to sort of wrap up the mission in a set of things that then could be acted upon.
Yeah. So it made it concrete as a set of organizing ideas and informed steps that people were taking. And I think it relates back to teamwork. I mean, I can say, as we were working to build the Master of Advanced Management, more recently our Masters in Management Studies, where do you turn when you start thinking about curriculum development? Of course, you think about market needs, you think about students and what they need, but you think back to these objectives, right? We're leveraging Yale, we're connecting globally, and that's how we make our programs distinctive. So it enables the kind of teamwork that I think you talked about at the beginning.
And it's the people at the front desk, it's the people in the registrar's office, because, you know, if we have 1,600 non-SOM student registrations, you know, that's a big thing. And, you know, everybody reacts to that kind of interaction. But instead of saying, well, you know, what are these people doing here? They say, well, oh, this is actually strategic. And it guides behavior.
You've also talked about how you feel that the world has moved closer to where SOM has always been. What do you mean by that?
Well, the great financial crisis, of course, was a big part of that. The concerns about major issues like education, the environment, income outcomes, health. These kinds of big issues bring into question, well, what's the purpose of a business school? And our founding mission was distinctive in its purposeful character, business and society, but also the sense that we're interested in leadership in different sectors. And now, yes, when you look at those big issues, you ask, well, where do the solutions lie? What kind of leaders will be able to contribute? Well, coming out of a place like this, a person has a really good understanding of what I view as sort of the core competencies of being an effective leader, but they're also positioned at a place where they can make it happen. They can get things done. So that's why I think other schools are moving towards Yale, and that's not a bad thing. That's good.
The integration into Yale has been one really important theme of your deanship. And you said that part of it is because that's where in part you go to look for solutions to problems. The other really important axis here, of course, is global connectivity, looking for solutions, understanding that problems are increasingly global. And of course, the institutional innovation there is the Global Network for Advanced Management. We crowdsourced a couple of questions for this conversation, and one of them comes from our friend and colleague, Yoshi Fujikawa at Hitotsubashi ICS in Japan. And he said, he compares you to successful entrepreneurs like Jeff Bezos and Southwest Airlines Kelleher, and he says that, you know, what they have in common is that the original idea behind their innovation is so simple that you could put it on the back of a napkin. So he's curious if there was a back of a napkin moment for the global network, and if you have the napkin, if we can see it.
I can sort of draw it in air if you want. I happen to be on a task force for AACSB. That's sort of an industry association for management education, and it was on global models. And I was struck by a couple of things. One is there's so many business schools, and the models were sort of boring, frankly. If you think about what the hierarchy of management education looks like in the United States, there are a lot of schools, and then there's a quality pyramid. And education is one of these interesting industries, if I can call it that, where the enterprises don't go for market share. They go for slice. They go for a small slice, high up in the quality pyramid, as high as they can get. But given what's happening in the world and the importance of these big issues and technology and globalization and the imperatives around leadership, what could we do? Well, we could take our slice here in the United States and connect it to a slice in Ireland and Indonesia and China. So I had this image, and I think we drew it actually, where you had the quality pyramids in various countries and regions, but then connecting slices across. And that was, and it would be okay if we did it just pairwise, quote, partnership, but this was also in the heels of everybody starting to understand networks and technology enabling the benefits realized from Metcalfe's law.
So let's talk about those frictions. And we have a question from our friend Alberto Trejos at Incaya in Costa Rica. And he says, our students face a peculiar contradiction. On the one hand side, as they graduate, they look at globally integrated business, multicultural, multinational, where you can not be a successful manager or entrepreneur without a global outlook. But at the same time, you have political movements around the world that are trying to roll back global integration, weaken global institutions. There's this wave of intolerance and nationalism and protectionism. So, you concerned about that wave? Has globalization peaked, and do we place the wrong bet?
Yeah, it's a great question. Now I'm transitioning to faculty role, so can I give you a long lecture on this one?
So you are an economist, after all.
Yeah, I am. But the history of humans is really a story about cooperation and competition. That's what is in our DNA. And then it's also a story about globalization and greater complexity in the way we interact. So, time out. Let's think about the long view here.
Yeah.
That I think is very helpful. That's the overarching story. Yeah. Now, Alberto's right, though. And in the last several years, we might have thought there would be more, friendly convergence, and now it's moving towards greater friction and distinctive paths for different countries, and more nationalism, more concern about a country's own culture and place in the world. Now, I think that's true, and I think you and I've talked about this a lot. We accept that there are rising frictions. Then the question is, well, does that mean globalization is going to end? Of course not. What does that mean for our role as educators? It means that we need to position our students and faculty and alumni in positions where they can understand what's going on and navigate those frictions. And in some ways, I think it makes the network more valuable to the member schools, because if it were easy, everybody could do it. Just be a wide open lane. No, it's actually a very complex navigation to realize gains from trade.
So over the past 8 years, Yale School of Management has changed in so many remarkable ways, right? Extraordinary faculty who've joined us here at the school, growth in the full-time MBA program, a stronger class than ever, more diverse class than ever, more financial aid for these students, new degree programs that have brought people from all around the world to Yale, integrating the school more with the rest of the university, making it more nodal, building out the global network. I could go on. What are you proudest of?
Wow, that's quite a list. I think you summarized it well. I think to me it distills down to we're a more open school. We're more connected, and that's given us a lot of resources, not just financial. I do think, and David, I just throw it back to you, I think that our work on the degree program portfolio, I think, really stands out. Mm-hmm. It's a strategic portfolio. Each program has a distinctive set of potential students coming in. A lot of schools have not been able to to make these turns of the dial. Full-time MBA is our flagship program, but we have these other interesting programs that generate a lot of synergies. So even the new MMS on systemic risk, I looked at some of the courses, and a majority of students are not from that particular program taking electives that sound, frankly, pretty geeky.
Yeah.
But these are, then you think about, well, students of this generation, they lived through the financial crisis.
Yeah.
When is the next one going to hit? How will it be dealt with? So something like that seems a little bit on the boutique-y side, that ends up being a source of great synergy for students in the other program.
So one of the things that sets Yale SOM apart is this incredibly strong and committed group of alumni. Talk a little bit about how you got to know them, what you learned from them, and how they've helped you succeed.
Well, boy, it's a long list. I mean, we've gone to the alumni for all kinds of requests. When we set up Yale Center Beijing on behalf of Yale, we went to our alumni in China. They gave us great advice. If you're going to do it, you have to decide between Shanghai and Beijing. Beijing's better. If you're going to do it in Beijing, Jiaoyang district is better than Haidian, et cetera. Fantastic. When we worked on the degree program portfolio, we spent a lot of time with the alumni, and they really pushed us to be clear and support the recruitment of students into these new programs. Amazing. The work that we did on grading, reforming the grading, very involved. It was one of those times where I got my lapels crunched a little bit, but it was good. It was because they cared. They wanted to make sure that we got these changes right. And directionally they bought in, but exactly how to do it, that they were so valuable. Now, two other things. One is it's not just alumni.
Mm-hmm.
We've also attracted a lot of friends,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't want to leave out our friends. But the other thing, when you do look at the alumni, in addition to being passionate and committed and engaged, they're incredibly generous.
Yeah.
So the last 4 years, over half of our alumni have contributed to the alumni fund. And that money has allowed us to balance our books, make investments in programs, and when big chunks come in, push it into the endowment. And for a school that's in its 5th decade, it's nice that we're now number 6 in endowment.
And the alumni play a role also in our educational mission, right? I mean, one of the things that surprised me when I first came here is, you would think New Haven a little bit off the beaten path, but the presence of alumni physically on campus, and now thanks to technology, increasingly, connected by video. Why is it so important to have alums involved, have them present, have our students interact with them?
Well, I think it goes back to the mission. They're the products of the mission to educate leaders for business and society. They're the products of that mission. They are the ones who are involved in environmental issues, education issues, health issues, security issues, privacy issues. So asset management. So having the alumni come back and the students see this is what it means to be at the forefront of these major issues at the nexus of business and society, it's unbelievably important and powerful.
I'm reminded then when your successor, Kerwin Charles, who will take over July 1st, introduced himself to the community. He said in a slightly self-deprecating way, he follows Ted Snyder, who he greatly admires. That wasn't the self-deprecating part. But then he said, bad timing, Kerwin. I'm following Ted Snyder. He's lucky. He has this extraordinary base and momentum to leverage going forward.
I think that's the right idea. It's a base.
Yeah.
And he's going to bring energy. The faculty, the alumni, the staff, the students are coming in with a lot of energy. Nobody has said, oh, we're terrible. Nobody has said, oh, it's all done.
Yeah.
It's been this balanced view about what we've accomplished. And Yale SOM has always been this way.
Yeah.
What's next?
What's next? So you're right to keep looking forward, and you're right that the community expects that off the school, to always look at what's next and to move forward. But I did want to make sure we took a moment to also just reflect on just how remarkable this journey has been. And don't take my word for it. We asked some colleagues in the Global Network. So Dominique Turpin, former president of IMD, who knows management education well and has spent a lot of time in it. He said, thanks to the Global Network, you've brought together a group of great schools that each contributes and learns from each other in their own way. You've also created a wonderful global network of friends who greatly appreciate seeing each other formally and informally in so many different settings. There isn't a single week that passes when I'm not in contact with one of my global network friends, asking for them for advice or getting information or having informal discussion. He says, thanks a million, Ted, for the initiative. You've made his job a lot easier.
He's a great guy. It's fun. These deans, directors, presidents, they've become our friends in ways that I'm very grateful for that.
And the team really then includes deans and directors at these other schools as well.
No question. Teamwork.
All right, Ted, so after 3 successful deanships and 20 years of deaning, you'll be a full-time faculty member starting July 1st. How does that feel?
A little bit daunting.
Yeah.
I used to be a good teacher. I like teaching, but we'll see if this dog can still do the teaching, and then what to teach, and then also how to contribute to the school and to the network. It's a fun chapter ahead. So
Ted, on behalf of everybody who's had the great fortune of working with you, all the people your leadership has made better and has impacted, thank you. I think it's been meaningful, it's been purposeful, and it's been a whole lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.